Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to Chemspec Digital 2021. It's my pleasure to introduce the first of the innovative startup presentations, focusing on new developments in bioeconomy in the startup scene. Dr. Holger Bengs of BCNP Consultants and European Chemistry Partnering will be moderating this session from here. Over to you.
Asano, thank you very much for the short and nice introduction. Yeah, my name is Holger Bengs. I'm happy to be here with you at Chemspec Digital 2021. And unfortunately, in this pandemic situation, we have to meet via the computer. But I think we make the best out of it. And we have a very interesting and inspiring program. I do not know whether you observed the small icon in front of the program of this session and also the following 2 hours at 3 and at 4 o'clock. There is a small light bulb. And this light bulb stands, of course, for innovation and creative people, business models, and companies. And I think you will learn a lot about these new topics and business models of the young companies, because startups are very inspiring and we need them in order to get our planet more sustainable. So I'm the initiator and organizer of the ECP together with my team, the European Chemistry Partnering. And we are proud of being in the fifth year in a row, partner of Chemspec and Chemspec Europe and Chemspec Digital, and to present you an inspiring program about startups and new ideas. And I hope you will get a lot of contacts and collaborations with these youngsters and young stars. But we will start with a keynote, and I'm really very happy and proud that we have Dr. Asano with us. She is really a very experienced venture capitalist, and she is now principal with the European Circular Bioeconomy Fund. And I do not know whether you know that the ECBF is really a very important, investing vehicle for growth companies in the area of bioeconomy. And so Marie is already shown here on our screen. And Marie, I'm really happy that you will introduce to us the European Circular Bioeconomy Fund. And I think you will give an overview about your investment and your philosophy. And we are really very, very happy that you found the time to present us the ECBF. So over to you.
Thank you, Holger. Actually, I have to thank you for having me on the conference. Appreciate it very much. And as Holger said, really the ECP and Holger Bengs has really been an integral part actually of the ECBF. He probably knew the organization before actually I applied. So the history goes way back, and I'm thrilled to present ECBF because we're a bit of the new kid on the block. So I hope everybody sees my screen. If that's the case, I would like to commence with, who are we, what do we do, and a little bit of an information. If I can change slides. So first of all, let's set the stage. So what is our raison d'être? Why do we exist? Well, there's 3 different trends that are very apparent on the market currently. First of all is a changing consumer demand and awareness for sustainability. I think #Fridays for Future, this sentence says it all. Europe/Germany has world-class R&D and research combined with a high public support for innovation. I used to work for the High-Tech Gründerfonds, a VC entity that's half state. So you can see really that, there is a lot of push for innovation. And thirdly, a regulatory push, increasing public and private initiatives like the EU Green Deal that's been signed. However, the European circular bioeconomy faces a growth stage funding gap. Now, what does that mean? It's kind of a mouthful. So what we want to do, so what is the growth stage funding gap? So what do we want to do? Where do we place ourselves in this map? So first of all, we want to address that valley, the second valley of death, as we call it, when a lot of startups that are active in the verticals that pertain to the circular bioeconomy, I'll get to that in the next slide, undergo. And usually, you have the inception phase, probably at a university, the company develops further, you go through the pilot phase, And then when it really becomes about scaling up that business model, meaning that you've made a couple kilograms of your product and you need to scale up, there are difficulties gaining capital just because it's very capital intensive. You need to have investors on board that have a very technical knowledge as well as a certain level of appetite for risk. So we see ourselves really being that bridge. I know it's a very non-original analogy, but being that bridge and to bring that syndicate together between generalist investors, regional investors, and us to really bring companies into profitability. And being the bridge, that the analogy says it all, we're not competing for rounds. Indeed, there's too little funding we see in mature stage companies. Hence, we want to work together with others. Maybe as just a short reference I'm not sure all of you are familiar with sort of the life cycles of a VC firm. By growth stage, we mean, you have the foundation of the company. Probably don't see my mouse, but you have the seed stage, the company goes larger and larger, you have early stage, later stage, and then public markets going from left to right, and this is time. So we see ourselves really in the stage after that first valley of death, right, where friends and family invest because nothing has been proven, to that second valley of death, as the European Commission has seen, when it comes to scale up. So what is the circular bioeconomy? Now that's a very good question. So what kind of investments do we actually do, and what does that actually mean? So we invest in verticals that would pertain to what we would call now sustainability tech, meaning we cover different industry tech verticals ranging from agriculture, food tech to blue economy. So this is like the nutrition specialties bulk, all the way to forestry, bio-based materials, packaging, construction. So this is rather bio-based materials. And then white biotech or industrial biotech, bio-based chemicals, personal care specialties. And of course, they're not rigid silos, but there's mixtures between the different verticals. Because for instance, you can have a biofermented single cell food product like cells from mycelin mushrooms that are used to make alternative meat. So that would be sort of industrial biotech and nutrition. So there are combinations between the sectors. I always say that it's much easier saying what we don't invest in. We don't do energy, we don't do pharma, and if you're exploiting children or doing nasty things like this, then probably we will not invest in you. On the right are certain areas that we have done a deep dive on, sort of concentrated on, but it doesn't pertain, obviously. We invest in much more different sectors, but we've done, special focus really in insect farming, textiles, packaging. That's a very big one, as well as biocontrol, vertical farming. These are all sectors that we look at in very much detail. Key facts, modus operandi in a nutshell, as I like to call it. So what do we do? How big are we? What are the key KPIs? So we've just reached our fourth closing, so 200 million plus, yay to us. We are still, however, fundraising, meaning that we are doing investments. So we have done investments in some portfolio companies, but we're also raising funds, meaning that if you or your friends or if anybody you know happens to want to invest in a sustainability fund that will also make very positive returns, please reach out. We expect to invest up to 25 different companies within the lifespan of our company. We invest Europe-wide plus Horizon 2022 associated nations, meaning all European countries plus countries like Israel. The question mark +1 was for the UK. Unfortunately, we have now confirmed that the UK is not in our scope. We focus on growth stage or scale-up companies. We do lead or co-lead and syndicate with others. We're flexible. We do flexible financing tools from equity as well as mezzanine. So we can do project financing as well for very mature companies. This is a big one. ESG is a must based on the European Investment Bank's criteria. I'll get to that in a second. 5 years investment, 5-year divestment, but that's quite standard for a fund of our size. Just to reiterate, so these are our LPs. I will not read all of them. It's a good mixture out of corporate as well as national promotional bank, private banks, as well as our cornerstone investor, and that's the European Investment Bank. we have done 3 investments already, just to give you a flavor of the different sectors that we invest. The first company that we invested in is called Prolupine. Now, Prolupine is a company that is active in the alternative dairy space, meaning they use lupine seeds, actually blue lupine, which can be locally harvested and grown in Germany, in the Northern European areas. They utilize that in order to make vegan alternative dairy products like yogurts, ice cream. I believe they also make fresh cheese. Why is it interesting? Why is it competitive? Well, actually, the CO2 balance of soy is not that great. If you grow it in Brazil or the US and then you ship it all the way to Europe. So really a local product that tastes good, that is also nutritionally complete and is versatile to be worked into different products is highly interesting. The company is active not only in protein formulation of the product, but also the B2C part. So really the branding of the product and bringing it onto the market. And this brand Made with Love, to all of you that are interested, it's sold in Edeka in Germany. Give it a try. It's pretty good. I like the mango one the best. The second company that we invested in is called Peel Pioneers. So as the name suggests, Peel Pioneers. What they do is that they take a waste stream, which is citrus peel, and then they convert it into value-add ingredients for cosmetics, feed, and food applications. Meaning, when you go to the supermarket and you drink an orange juice, obviously you have the peels that are left over. Now, the peels are actually quite a bit troublesome to get rid of because if you try to burn it, some of the chemicals inside are quite corrosive to facilities. So it's not too great to incinerate them. If you try to put them in a biogas reactor, it kills the microbes inside because orange peels have a natural substance that's antibiotic. So basically what they do is they take these peels and they extract fibers and different fragrance molecules, aroma molecules like limonene, and then they sell it further as food ingredients. And this is a circular company, by the way. Lastly, Afia Bio, this is one that I co-led. This is more in the AgTech space and more specifically biologicals for ag. What do? They make biostimulants and biocontrol products for large acre crops like wheat and maize. Why is this interesting? Well, first of all, we can't keep on doing agriculture the way we usually do without coming into large consequences. Large fertilizer use, large pesticide use, and actually farm to fork. So European Union has set a goal that until 2022, they will try to reduce the amount of fertilizers by 20% and amount of pesticides by 50% by 2030. So there's real goals in mind and real pressure. Nevertheless, the farmers have to keep on producing food. Obviously, the need for food is not going to go away. So what Afia Bio does is they go and say, well, look, we're going to try to isolate and discover naturally occurring bacteria on the plant's microbiome, take it, enrich it, formulate a product on it that's completely natural, that is able to act as a natural pesticide and a natural fertilizer. It's a little bit like when in your intestines, there are healthy bacteria that live there, and it's a whole colony of different bacteria, some good, some bad. And they help you, and depending on what kind of bacteria you have in your gut, you're healthy, you're fitter, your metabolic health is good. Same concept. It's like they cherry pick the good bacteria and then they make a novel product out of it. Holger brought this up. So sustainability is also a key point. Just to reiterate, so we're not a charity. We do want to make healthy returns. And what we say is, well, there's different philosophies about this, but if you are a company that has a sustainable product in terms of climate, social, governance, that's one thing. But if you are also a viable business model, then what happens is that you're able to get significant market fractions and customers that are able to use your product, meaning that the impact for you is greater in the end. So for us, when we say sustainability, we mean ESG and financial, business sustainable. And in terms of ESG, we take this very, very seriously. So it's part of our charter. It's actually part of our DNA and why the European Investment Bank actually said they wanted fund managers to manage such a fund. So we look at environment, social, governance. meaning that in the investment due diligence process, we will look closely into the company, meaning that there's a due diligence checklist. We have a side letter to portfolio companies. We have an ESG report that we give to our LPs. And just on the same point, going further in terms of selection. So we go all the way when we are selecting our portfolios. We look at obviously geography, if it's bio-based. Are they doing anything that's excluded or restricted? I mentioned child labor, child exploitation. Yes, we do check. And if your suppliers are undergoing these practices as well. So we really want to have supply chain transparency for a reason. Environmental greenhouse gas footprint we will look at, do no significant harm. And all of this, if it's EU taxonomy compliant, we will invest. Obviously, there's going to be some companies, especially when we're talking about early Series B, that either don't know or are not fulfilling some things. Now, if it's not as completely deal killer as you're exploiting poor children, then essentially we're going to take those points and try to work together with you after our investment in order to implement them going forward. Why is this necessary? Because we are a Article 9 Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation nomenclature fund, meaning that we're under strict obligations, as this regulation says, to do these things. Otherwise, it's called greenwashing, and nobody wants to be a greenwash investor. A concrete example, for instance, is for Afia Bio, the investment, our third portfolio company. So what does all this mean? It means that Afia Bio makes fertilizers using natural microorganisms, the naturally occurring. Obviously, the alternative, conventional fertilizer, is bad. Okay, that's a no-brainer. But we checked all these things in terms of not only climate impact, but also how are their hiring processes? Are they diverse? Do they have discrimination? Do they have compensation for their employees that makes sense? What about governance? Do they have different types of governing organs? Are they basically auditing their accounts? So all of these points come together, and what we said was, hey, look, so after our DD, together with another co-lead investor, Asano, we said, let's build an impact committee along with audit and Remco that is able to monitor the different things that we flagged that we would like to have developed further in our investment. And what we do is biannually, we sit together and we go through all these points that we flagged together. And hopefully like this, we can, it also helps the company as well, because essentially they're able to leverage a structured ESG approach for their fundraising as well as in the exit process. And that's more or less it. So just key points, our USP. Well, you haven't seen our team, but we have a team with experience in venture capital industry finance. I'm a chemist myself, started my career as a laboratory rat, pulling apart molecules for a living, decided to switch to venture capital, and a lot of people are like this or came from industry. We need to do something. Climate change, EU Green Deal, the time is ripe. We offer an attractive risk return profile to all those people that have extra change. Feel free to reach out. And sustainable investment, ESG, is a must criteria. So our mission is sustainable investments in our future. Thank you.
Marie, thank you very much for this overview and having a look at the time. I know you have a flight directly after your talk, but there are still some minutes for one or two questions.
For you, Holger, always.
Thank you very much. So you mentioned, have I understood that right, that because of Brexit, you tend not to invest in UK?
Let's put it this way. It was a little bit up in the air for a while, but unfortunately, we got the notification basically last week before, a very clear answer. So it was never really clear. But yes, I would see that as the negative effect of Brexit.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned in one of your last slides that sustainability is a big criterion for you. Of course, European Circular Bioeconomy Fund. Do you have experience already or a kind of measure or scale how you can prove how sustainable a new business model in that area is?
So how do we measure sustainability? So
exactly.
Well, first of all, we have this list where we go through different terms, right, that pertain to environment, social, and governance. It's not a black and white scoring thing. It's rather that we look really at, okay, so that is very concrete, greenhouse gas emissions. How would it be before technology? How would it be with technology implemented? And this is something along with an LCA analysis or life cycle analysis that we would expect to do together with the company if they haven't done it already. The other parts like social hiring policies, procurement policies, all of this we check during our DD process, meaning that we actually ask them, so can you show us what your hiring process looks like? Is it bias blind? Or are you, are you discriminating against your employees? In terms of governance, obviously, we'll look at audit accounts, if there's different governing organs, like I said, like audit committee, etc. That's one thing, that's ESG. We also want to measure impact. That's something else. So an impact analysis is something that we also do, but keeping in mind it's much more, it's not like you're giving a very strict numerical score, but rather what is the impact? Is it a positive impact? Is it a negative impact? But obviously, going forward, what do we report to our LPs is a status quo at the time of investment. And then certain KPIs, how have they changed, for better, for negative? Are the goals that we set been fulfilled? But we would like to progress to have it a little more formalized, a little more concrete. But as you know, we are also a new fund, so we're still in the process of trying to find what's the best way to report these things.
Okay. Yeah, you are quite a new fund. That's right. So this leads me to my next question. How have you found your first 3 investment, or have they found already you? And maybe you can describe a little bit the process. So how many proposals, investment proposals or business plans do we have on your table right now?
So how did they find us? I believe actually for all 3 of them, it was our personal contacts. Meaning that, the venture capital world and the startup world, as you know, Holger, is a pretty small world where people talk. And if they're looking for funding, and especially if there's a new fund, it gets known pretty quickly. So it's a lot of, contact and human relations. How many business plans do we have on our table? Well, we have a data bank where we, look at different business plans and we gather them. We have actually 1,800 different companies that are on our list, let's say. Of course, we're not going to invest in all of them. We are currently in depth scanning, let's say, about 25, 30 different companies. And of those in Progress DD, I would say is about 4 different companies. So it's quite a big funnel. I think the key message is, even if you're a little bit earlier than you think where we invest, feel free to reach out, because then you'll be put on the hold or the watch list. We love to get in contact also with companies that are a little bit earlier stage, because we believe that this relationship building and this dialogue happens from the very beginning. So even if it takes 1 or 2 years.
Okay, earlier stage is very interesting, because my feeling was that you are focused on the more developed companies you would like to invest into growth, but maybe you can mirror that a little bit. So what is the clear no? When do you not invest in companies? Is there a kind of deal breaker you can share with us?
Okay, deal breaker is restricted activities that I mentioned before. Another deal, I wouldn't say deal breaker, but a rather please get in touch with us a little bit later, is technical maturity. So just to reiterate, we're fine with getting in touch with earlier stage companies for relationship building, because nowadays, the market is very, very competitive. There's a lot of money in the market, a lot of investors. And I feel to get into really good rounds, you need to have a relationship with the founder already, because when they're big and famous, they're not going to think of us anymore. So we want to get to know them when they're small and still friendly. However, A deal breaker, or let's say, let's see you later, would be the technology readiness that I said. So TRL6 is the limit where we would invest. TRL6, or technology readiness level 6, is a scale that NASA utilizes sort of to quantify technology readiness of their hardware units. We've kind of adopted it for us. And basically that level, the minimum level, would be that the technology has been demonstrated in a commercially relevant environment, meaning you've done for sales, the product is ready. If it's a pilot, you can produce, you have people who want it, preferably for the demo facility. You already have customers that are waiting, right? Because you don't want empty capacity. They're waiting to buy these products. If we're looking at an AFIA, that's a little bit different, because the business model is kind of like pharma, in which case we expect you to have done field studies, field phase 2, phase 3 field studies, where you can show really in open fields over there, the products work, and we're ready to build up and start commercializing and getting regulatory approval.
Okay, maybe regarding the time, just a short final question.
Don't worry.
So will you also, or have I understood that right, that you and the ECBF is also open for further funding in a consortium when there's the next step?
So our fund will close, the final closing of our fund. So there's startup funding and there's our fund funding. We're still gathering money. Will close end of February, meaning that we are still open to accept investments from corporate limited partners, from banks, from family offices, sovereign funds, things like this. So yes, you're correct. We're not closed yet. If you want to join us as an LP, you're more than welcome to get in touch.
Okay, great. So that was your marketing for the fund, and I'm quite sure if you are successful, and I have no doubts about that, a second fund will maybe start in a couple of years. So I cross my fingers for that. And yeah, Marie, thank you very much. You mentioned how important it is to have personal contacts in that business. And therefore, I would invite everybody who is sitting in front of the screen to contact Marie Asano at LinkedIn, because I know we have a very good profile over there. And I think that's the best way to come into contact with you. And I would say you agree. Am I right?
I'm right. Otherwise, shoot me an email. Sometimes on LinkedIn, there's a lot of messages and some spam. So here's the email address. You guys are free to share my presentation, if that's even possible with everybody that's watching. Happy to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Marie, and have a good flight, and best wishes to the crew in Bonn and international crew. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Will do. Thank you, Holger. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, that was is the ECBF, the European Circular Bioeconomy Fund. And now we start our short row of presentations from young startups, from entrepreneurs, which will present their technologies. And I'm really happy. I hope, Richard, it was not that disappointing for you that the ECBF is not possible or able to invest in UK, but you are from UK. And we are really happy to have you with us today, and you will present your company, which is Holiferm, and it's all about fermentations. And if I'm rightly informed, it's about biosurfactants. So please, over to you. Give us your show.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much, Holger. Yes, obviously that is the negative effect of Brexit. Unfortunately, we are in that world now, so we're just trying to find our way forward. So my name is Richard Locke, and I'm the MD at. Let me just try and get my presentation up. Just do this. So I'm the MD at Holiferm, and so it's all about fermentation for us. And what we're actually doing is bringing biosurfactants to the mass market. In terms of the startups, we are a bit further on. We are just about to build our commercial facility. We have the demo plant, which I'll go into in our presentation. So we all know, and thank you for what Maria was saying, we know the world is changing. We need to make a change, and we need to do something different. I think we've all been waiting for the governments to step in and try and help out in terms of the green and bioeconomy. But we've noticed that they've been taking their time. So industry has obviously started to get together, and I think we as an industry, we have the power to really solve the problems that are there and to be a truly sustainable sort of industry, both economically and environmentally. This can be seen by some of the major soapers in the world, such as Unilever, Henkel and L'Oreal. They're all making large statements around becoming fossil free. So, and in 2020, so on 2030, so how do you do that, and how do you move away from sort of fossil fuels, considering the challenges that you have in biotech or perceived challenges in biotech? So the challenges that you'd all probably normally see, and we hear it a lot, is obviously it's the cost, really. When you start to create a new chemical, you are not only are you trying to dislodge a petrochemical based surfactant or fossil fuel based surfactant that has been specifically designed for a task, so they are pretty good at what they do technically, but obviously they have a lot of negative connotations to them, and obviously they're not very sustainable for us long term in the future. But the challenges that we come up against, and what we've seen, and it's time and time again, and challenges for startups like us, is we create a new chemical. Typically they're costly, they're very process heavy, and we have a lot of regulatory challenges against that. So when we're trying to really help change the market and to make a difference, we have to address these and address these fully. So at Holiferm, what we actually tried to do is we sort of changed that process around. We thought about it and we decided, actually, we understand the system, let's work with the system and not against the system. And actually, let's address the elephant in the room, which is the cost of something. Having a truly green, sustainable product is great, but if it costs too much money, we can't be ecologically or commercially sustainable. And we looked at it from the consumer point of view. Even though we're B2B, we're the ingredient maker, we looked at it as how consumers act. We all have budgets. When we go out shopping, we all have families to look after, we all want to do nice things. But when you look at the current shelf market in supermarkets, the cost of a green alternative is generally around 2 to 3 times the price of a petrochemical-based formulation. So we said, well, how do we address that? Let's be innovative as a company, use fermentation, and then we decided, let's try not to overcomplicate something. So what actually is our solution, and what are we actually doing at Holiferm? So we take green sustainable raw materials such as rapeseed oil, sugar. We can also use waste streams oils. We use a fermentation process. But the key to our technology is we turn that batch fermentation into a continuous fermentation. So we're able to take product out while we ferment. We then take that fermented the extract, and then we use traditional chemical manufacturing, but we only use physical chemical processes to purify our products. So again, we've kept it really simple, so that helps us lower the cost. So one of the phrases I like to use is vanilla, vanilla, vanilla. So we keep the process all the way the same as much as possible to lower our production costs, so that when we get to sell the product, we can lower the cost to make it comparable to petrochemicals. So if I go into a little bit more detail about what we do, effectively during that fermentation, we use a patented separation technology that allows us to recycle the yeast back in, or the microbes back into the fermenter, while removing the product. In a nutshell, that allows us to use about a third of the capex against traditional biotech or fermentation. We also can produce around 3 to 4 times as much product over a given time period, due to the ability of being able to remove the product in situ and then take it to its downstream processes. That's really the sort of the technology so we say it's like elegantly simple in that we're able to remove it while working with it. So what we did is we decided, well, how do we prove this? Lots of people have said this, lots of startups say this. So what we said is, let's create some products. So the first products that we're launching with are the Honeysurf LF low foam. So that's a high lactonic form, high lactonic form, and then the high foam, which is the high acidic form, which is the HF. So you can see by the pictures here, we've made them nice and clear, translucent. They have the sort of yellowy colours that of honey. That's why we've named them. They've got nothing to do with honey anymore, and we've done that with the vegan certification and the eco-cert for both of these types of products. So what we've actually done so far is we've had the funding and we've created our pilot plant. So we produce up to 25 tonnes a year of product. So this is in both forms. We're also launching some personal care type products as well, in terms of entering that market with the same sulforolipid based product. But we've also just completed our funding round. So we will be producing and building a commercial facility in Liverpool, in the UK, unfortunately. Sorry, it's not in Europe, where we'll produce around 1,100 tonnes a year of sulforolipid. This is to prove the technology on this scale. And the best way to do that, this allows us to build it ourselves. This also allows us to bring the cost price to be comparable to specialty petrochemical base surfactants. So we are really giving formulators the opportunity to formulate new products with green-based surfactants. But that said, we just don't want to be a one surfactant company. We actually really believe that fermentation holds the key to solving the petrochemical shortage or petrochemical alternatives. Fermentation can produce millions of types of surfactants. And we're working with partners to demonstrate that in not only other biosurfactants firstly, but also into other fields as well. All focused on bringing that total cost of production down so that you no longer have to pay a lot for a biochemical. We're really challenging that myth. We think we can bring that cost price, and we're proving even with our pilot plant that we can be comparable or the same price as petrochemical based surfactants. So that was a quick whistle stop tour, elevator pitch of what we're doing at Holiferm. I guess I really just want to say that for us, that we believe that the green or sustainable shouldn't cost the earth, and our technology is really there around focusing to do that. Hope that any other questions, or I hope you found that really interesting.
Richard, thank you very much for this overview about Holiferm, and just a short question at the very end, because I will not let you go with one additional answer. Have you produced the products by your own, or the two brands you mentioned? Was this also in collaboration with big ones?
No, so the first sulforolipids, the Honeysurf LF and Honeysurf HF, we're also doing a cosmetic brand. Is actually all made by us. So we built the pilot plant, we've designed and built the separator, and we've also done the downstream. So that is all being completed by Holiferm. These are commercially available now as well. So
yeah. Congratulations. So we will see us, I think, maybe on another digital meeting and maybe at next ECP in February. So all the success for you.
Thank you very much, Holger. We're hoping to be there next year. It'll be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Many successes. Goodbye, Richard. And now we have our next company, which is MAKABI AGRITECH. And this is from Croatia. And with us is the CEO, Marko Vinceković, and here he is already.
Yes,
so Marko, we are looking forward to have your story from Croatia. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity to represent my startup. I will now start with my presentation. Wait a second. Okay. So, hello, my name is Marko, and I am representing the MAKABI AGRITECH Research and Innovation Technology for Agro-Health sector. One of the main global challenge and problem is climate changes, which has got a negative impact on environment, nature, human health, and life. Did you know that 26% of greenhouse gases is arriving from the modern agricultural production? Also, modern agricultural production is using 50% of the land and 70% of the fresh water. And also it increased the level of nitrogen for almost 78%, which has got a negative impact on the biodiversity. All of this is causing the increasing of the greenhouse effect, increasing the temperature, decreasing the number of rainfall, and also decreasing the number of fertile fields. And because of that, we need to unlock the potential of indoor farming in the smart cities of the future. But we do have a solution, and it is a smart capsule technology, which is an agroecological product, which is produced by green chemistry process of encapsulation of different bioactive components into microparticle formulation, which has got a technology with 3-in-1 effect. So at the same time, it is a plant protection, plant nutrition, and also time release mechanism. So with these formulations, we could decrease the usage of agrochemicals for almost 30%, but also we could increase the quality of the final product. So all these investigations were done in the last 4 years, and we applied these different types of formulations on different plant cultures in open fields, greenhouse, hydroponics, and foliary. So we have got a prototype ready. So we need to upscale, and we need to make a contact with industry partners to make better visibility and also the better connection. So we are mainly focused on the business growth, networking, marketing, and also on collaboration. So our story started in 2019 when we got the award at Startup Factory at Zagreb Connect, but also we get the award at the 8 Climate Kick Accelerator. And also we are having our first Horizon 2020 project. So we are mainly focused in the partnership between academia and industry, and that we could make new products which could be put on the market. As I said, this is an agroecological product, so we are mainly focused on the local agroecological producers in Croatia. So we are thinking locally, but we are growing globally, so we would like to conquest the market of European Union and the world. So we are currently in the process of raising funds for the patent application and protection. And of course, there is a lot of competition on the market, but they are mainly very big and international companies, which are mainly focused on the mass market product. But our product is unique with unique properties. So we are hoping to turn our competitors into our clients. So the financial flow in the MAKABI AGRITECH is connected through the different project applications, so both national and international, through different acceleration incubators and by the direct selling of microcapsule formulations to the customers. All of this, it will be impossible without my team, which has got 17 years of experience in different scientific fields. So from chemistry, microbiology, biotechnology, organic chemistry, food processing, global agroecology, and also management. So with different types of financial support, we could increase our investigation process of microcapsule formulation preparation and application in different areas. And with this production of new microcapsule formulation, we could trigger a change and a revolution in agricultural production. At the end, it is a time of action, because with our action today, we could make the change in our world in the next 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50 years. But we need to work together, both scientists, both policymakers and industry, and only together and working together we could make a change. So thank you very much, and I hope that you like my presentation.
Not seen at the moment, but thank you very much. I like the presentation very much. and I'm quite sure that you have patents on your technology. However, can you describe the materials from which you make the capsules a little bit deeper?
Yes, these materials are completely biodegradable. So we are using different types of materials like biopolymers. It is polysaccharides or different types of proteins. And we are using different bioactive components which could be isolated from the nature. So we are using different types of microorganisms like bacteria or like fungi, and we are putting inside our formulations together with different types of chemical agents. So we are making a synergistic effect of these beneficial microorganisms like fungi, like bacteria. And with this synergistic effect, we could increase the plant protection and plant nutrition, and we could produce the functional food. When I'm talking about the functional food is a food which has got a higher level of different types of antioxidants, like lycopene in tomatoes or chlorophyll in the lettuce. And with this functional food, we could have a positive effect on the human health.
Marko, thank you very much. And I cross my fingers that you can find the right partners among your competitors.
And thank you very much.
Make customers out of them.
Thank you.
Goodbye. We are at the end of our first session, and in a couple of minutes we will go further on at 3 o'clock. And don't miss the keynote of Friedrich Barth. He is the CEO and founder of the Global Entrepreneurship Center. See you in a couple of minutes.